At the start of the film, we observe a man named Max sitting on the roof, finishing his drawing. Meanwhile, his mother calls him downstairs to finish the packing. We learn that they used to live here, but that they moved when Max was 8 months old. Max's father was killed in an accident in this city. They've returned to live here. Max sees something strange when shifting. The waves start to appear abnormally when he moves his hands towards the TV. From a scientific standpoint, that was impossible. When Max sees his hands, he becomes astonished. Later, he begins to assist his mother by ignoring this. Meanwhile, he gets ready for school, but his thoughts are still on the waves that emerged from his hands. It's what it was, and how could that be? Later, he goes to the school and stops outside the restricted area of the lab. This lab was once his father's, but he died in an accident there. When he hears his mother's message, he starts swiping. The same waves come from his palms this time, and the phone switches off altogether. Max returns to his school later, and we observe the scenario inside the lab. In a submarine robot, a weird light begins to glow. This is a blue-colored light that was glowing because Max was around there. As a result, the submersible robot begins to work. Max's cycle later breaks while he is at school because of the collapse of a car. Max falls a long distance away, and the car driver female rushes out to help him. Sophia is the girl's name, and she requests that they meet after school. I'll repair your cycle. When Max goes to school, we learn that his father was well known. People used to hold him in high regard. He sits at a place after school. While thinking about the waves, he becomes perplexed. Sophia, in the meantime, arrives in her car and transports his bicycle to her garage for repair. Sophia completely repairs Max's bicycle after going into the garage. During this time, we note that they both are quite happy to meet each other. Max returns home later, and upon entering his home, he notices a man named Miles. He was conversing with his mom. This man, Miles, used to work alongside his father. He was also a family friend of theirs. Later, in the lab, we encounter the same submarine robot. The blue light grows in intensity. Later, a tremendous boom erupts in the water. The object that molds the water. Later, 2 scientists arrive to inspect. One of them approaches the object and reaches out to touch it. The second scientist cuts off the main power just as he was about to touch the object. As a result, a flying object emerges from the water, and he flees the scene. Both scientists promptly call security to find the flying object. The small flying item makes an attempt to flee the lab. Meanwhile, many security guards chase him to arrest him. The flying object was like a ball with swift speed. The darkness spread throughout the area as a result of the power cut. The security guards were having trouble capturing the flying object due to the darkness. As a result, they were unable to capture the flying object, and it escaped from the lab. On the other hand, we see the dining room scenario in Max's house. Miles, the man, claims that he and his father always talk about their goal. We know Miles has insisted on bringing both of them to this city. Miles departs later, and Max goes to his room for sleeping. Later, when he returns to his room, he begins to search about the incident with his father on the computer, in which he died, and we learn from the video there. His father died as a result of a severe storm. This type of storm, though, is impossible. It means that the storm was man-made, but who caused it? And what was the point of causing the storm? We'll find out more later. Max's computer shuts down while he was watching the clips. As a result, when Max smashes his hand furiously, the same liquid energy starts to erupt. This time it was even apparent, which causes Max to be puzzled. He keeps his hand under the pillow while being perplexed. Max was looking at the waves that were developing on his palms and examining them. As he closes his fist, the waves disappear, and when he opens, this time, the waves erupt with great force. Max falls down as a result of this. Max uses radio and a lamp the next day to try to control his powers. His powers were not in control, but he was able to blast these objects. Later, he goes to school and paints a sketch of those energy waves at recess. Sophia, on the other hand, asks him to a restaurant with her. Max accepts and later begins to play with the waves that are forming in his hands. Later, when he returns home, he notices that liquid energy waves are coming from his fingers. What type of waves are they? These items, however, are not available on the internet. Max returns downstairs later to speak with his father. Max is trying to figure out where his father is. Everything about his family background, his father's past, and everything. What's more, why is there a bomb shelter beneath their house? Because Max doesn't like it when people know his father better than he does. In the meantime, we observe that someone is keeping an eye on Max. This thing is able to detect Max's energy waves. Max joins Sophia in a restaurant where she has invited him the next day. Max's health begins to fail after a chat as a result of the overloading powers. His condition quickly deteriorates, prompting him to visit the washroom. He observes in the mirror after entering the washroom. He notices the blue lights emerging from his eyes. More energy waves now begin to emerge from his hand as compared to before. This time, he even couldn't control them, and as he turns off the waves, the lights of the washroom also turn off. As a result, darkness spread around the room, and blue lights began to emerge from his body. It was a surprising thing because it meant his entire body, not just his hands, were covered with waves. Max, obviously, is terrified as a result of all of this. He flees from there, leaving Sophia alone. We realize that the thing that was chasing him has entered the restaurant as well. The thing chases him around and runs after him. While running, Max enters the jungle, where a large number of waves emerge from his body. It means that his energy waves have grown uncontrollable. As the situation gets out of control, Max begins to cry after being terrified by everything. Many energy waves began to emerge from his body as a result of this. Max instantly passes out as a result of this. Max opens his eyes on his resident's bed in the next scene. But he couldn't figure out how he got back to his house after passing out. He finds little holes in the t-shirts as he goes into the washroom to freshen up. This is all due to the emergence of new energy waves. We notice weird marks on his chest as he removes his t-shirt. Max becomes frightened and perplexed. Max closed the mirror behind him after taking his meds. Behind him, we see the same flying object. As a result, when Max becomes terrified, he closes the door to his room. Max's room is later visited by the flying object. Steel is the name of the flying object, and I'm a silicone light-based form. It says I'm an alien from another planet. My primary responsibility is to protect you, Max. The energy light begins to come from his body afterward. In the meantime, Steel, the flying item, absorbs the blue light. Max has Steel in his bag because he has to go to school. Max travels to the jungle to drop Steel at the area where he first saw him. Steel tells Max that the energy waves from your body emerge from your body. And it is because of them that you are alive. If I wouldn't absorb them, then you'll be blasted. Meanwhile, some scary people armed with firearms arrive. They've come here to look for Steel. Max and Steel flee after witnessing them. Later, we see that they were using a device to fin them. Max disables the device by using his powers. It means that Max has gained some control over his powers. Meanwhile, they catch a glimpse of Max and Steel. They start shooting at them, and Max and Steel have no choice but to flee. Steel brings back memories while running, as Max and Steel are linked to one another. As a result, Max is able to see those memories as well, in which he first sees the destruction of the research lab. They later notice the reflection of Steel. When Max inquires Steel about this, he couldn't tell them. Steel, on the other hand, doesn't remember anything. We see the same people approaching them again later. Because of this, Max takes Steele to school with him. As Max's class is over, he meets Sophia, who invites Max to come to the restaurant. Max, as we all know, has Steele in his bag. That's why he was moving in an uneasy manner. As a result, Max must proceed from there. Later, they both sit on the ground and begin to talk about how to control the situation. In the meantime, a drawing emerges from Max's bag, where he has drawn his father's research lab. Steele observes this and concludes that Ultralinks exist and will arrive to kill us. Ultralinks is an alien who is responsible for his father's death. They visit his father's research lab later. Now that the facility is barren, Max begins to practice his powers. Max tries a lot of new things, such as martial art, parkour, and gymnastics. Later, he jumps significantly in a small amount of time. He develops the ability to achieve all of this in such a short amount of time. Max later makes a big jump by accident and falls down after climbing up. Steele comes to his help just in time, meaning they're interlinked with each other. As a result, they become a unique kind of suit. Max sees strange visions after putting on his suit, which is actually Steele's memories. In his memories, he can see his father. After seeing Steele, Max's father recognizes him. Later, when both are unlinked, Max inquires, "How did you know my father?" But Steele can't answer it because he doesn't remind me of anything. He says the storm caused your father's death. That was an Ultralinks. Later, we see the next day's scene in the house, where Max and Steele were. Max decides to inform his mother about everything, but she isn't at home. Max notices an NTEK sign on his fridge and chooses to inquire about it from Miles. NTEK is a company, and Max wishes to visit Miles. Because Miles was present at the time of his father's death, this is the reason. That's why he flees with Steele, but they run into the people who are already pursuing them. Max comes up in front of Sophia's car after distracting them. NTEK was at a distance of 20 kilometers distant. That is why he accepts Sophia's offer of a ride. During an long TH journey, they converse and try to connect with one another. They talk about it after being perfectly frank with one another. They arrive at the NTEK to meet Miles after a time. Miles is attempting to improve Max's father's company. Max later goes alone to speak with Miles. He wants to know what occurred the night his father died. Miles, on the other hand, has no idea about this because he reached there after his death. In the meantime, Miles shows Max a device that his father created. This device is a source of clean energy because it uses energy. Max's condition deteriorates as a result of his energy being overloaded at this time. Miles is also aware of the energy waves emerging from his body. As he watches, he becomes shocked, and Max flees as before. Max arrives at a location where a mysterious storm is chasing him while running. A woman's car became stranded at the railway station during this time. Max goes to help that lady, and with his might, he starts her car. The storm begins to pull Max toward it, and just as it was ready to take him whole, Steele appears. And the two become joined and turn once more into that suit. This time, Max ends the storm by entirely controlling the suit. This storm was an Ultralink, and when Max walks nearer the Ultralink after finishing the storm, he notices that the Ultralink resembles Steele. Steele is a member of Ultralink, and Max has visions in this area. According to these visions, Max's father was murdered by Steele. Steele claims that your father used the energy waves you possess against Ultralink. It implies that this energy was also present in your father's body. The Ultralinks have arrived to destroy the Earth, Steele informs Max. Ultralinks can only be broken with your energy. Max panics as a result of all of this, and he gets fearful as well. Because his father was also doing this all and he died. He runs to his house, where he discovers a search being conducted by some officers. Max understands that those people have come to his house to look for him. That is why, after fleeing, Max returns to Sophia's house. He asks for her car, and after climbing into it, he drives to NTEK. He calls Miles on the way and asks him to meet him at his father's old lab. Following that, we witness Max's house scene, where the film's twist is revealed. The corporation NTEK is owned by Max's mother. She also instructs officers to find Max. Later, we view the scene of the research lab once more. Max moves about by following certain lights. Max travels approaching the prototype while following the light. Steele was in a sleeping state there. It was more like a chamber, and Max was having visions once more. How did we learn of Max's father's death? His father died, not because of Steele, but because of Miles. Miles kills his father with the help of Ultralinks. Max's father drew out whatever energy he possessed. Before dying, Max's father tells Steele that when Max is old enough, he should go to protect him. After saying that, he died. Meanwhile, Miles appears, dressed in his suit. After watching Miles, Max attempts to kill him, but he couldn't do anything. Later, Miles orders Max to go into the chamber. Meanwhile, after entering the chamber, Max connected with Steele. He had a lot more control over the suit this time than he had before. Later on, both Max and Miles start fighting with one another. We see their violent fight, in which Max dominates Miles and kills him. During the fight, it is revealed that Max's father was an alien, not a human. Of course, after all of this, Max is also an alien. Max is seen with his mother at his home. We learn that Max's mother is already aware of this. Max's father is an alien, and Max's son is an alien as well. He, like his father, possesses superhuman powers. Miles, on the other hand, intends to abuse all of them, something she is completely ignorant of. Later, Max and Sophia are conversing with one another. Later, they create a bonding, a relationship. This movie ends here. Thanks for watching.